Good evening, good evening, good evening. A Better You Lifestyle, and I am your host, Willie A. Price. Willie A. Price Speaks, and tonight we are doing Financially You. A Better You Lifestyle, Financially You. If you know about the show, every Sunday night at 8 o'clock we do a different topic, and tonight we're doing financial literacy and Financially You. So what we do tonight is Financially You, but every first week we do Understanding Your You, which is all about understanding who you are, what your concerns are, what makes you a special person, and what you can do to create better opportunities for yourself, a better lifestyle for yourself. Second week is A Mother's Love, and A Mother's Love is all about how we can work with our children, the children in our community, children in our family, our own children, whatever the case may be, how to help them to understand who they are and what their specialized skills and abilities are, and how they too can use those skills and abilities to create a better lifestyle for themselves as well. So that's our second week. Today is our third week, which is Financially You, where it's all about helping you to understand and develop various streams of income, understand what financial literacy is, help you discuss, or even look at what your financial situation is and how to improve that so you can create a better you lifestyle for yourself, a better lifestyle for yourself. That's why this show is called A Better You Lifestyle. And then on our fourth week is Making Your House Your Home, where it's all about different real estate subjects. But we're also going to be incorporating this year into Making Your House Your Home. We're going to be doing Aging in Place, which is working with our seniors, and Universal Design, which is also working with persons who are living in homes and they want to age gracefully and safe and secure homes without eventually having to move into a nursing home or making it a much later situation where they have to move into a nursing home. So that's where Making Your House Your Home, we're going to be talking about various subjects, but our next show will actually be talking about the CAPS program and what CAPS and Universal Design is all about. But tonight, I have to get my notes because we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about your finances. This is the month of November. We got one more month. And my question, which was in the beginning of the, if you looked at the comment section there or the topic for tonight, it was Financially You, and it's 2023 is coming to an end. How did you do? And what are your plans for 2024? How did you do in 2023? We're almost at the end of 2023. How did you do with your finances? How was the year for you? Were you able to travel? Were you able to buy a new home? Were you move into another apartment? Did you buy a car? Did you buy a new car? What was your situation for 2023? Was it a better year for you? Was it the same year for you? Was it a worse year for you? What was your situation in 2023? Now is the time to look at that. Not next month, not January, but now. Because if you look at it now, that gives you next month to start planning for 2024. Then that gives you January to start implementing 2024. One of the things I talk about in my programs, we do a program called No Dream is Impossible, the 4 W's to a Successful Life. And I was thinking about that program earlier today because I am going to be starting a new program in 2024, which is one of my plans for 2024. I'm going to be starting a new program, which I'm not going to really talk about a lot tonight, but I'm going to be starting this new program, and it's going to be using the 4 W's to success, understanding who you are. And I was kind of reorganizing the 4 W's to success, because we normally say understanding who you are, where you're trying to go, what is it going to take for you to get there, and why you're willing to commit to it. But what we're going to do going forward with the 4 W's to success, they're still going to be the same 4 W's, but it's understanding who you are, understanding where you want to go, then determining why are you willing to go there? Why do you want that goal? And then the fourth one is going to be, what is it going to take for you to achieve that goal? Because once you determine why you're willing to commit to that goal and why you want that goal, now that's going to be the steadfast in that situation. But then once we understand why we want to do this and we determine why we want to do this, what comes next is, what is it going to take for us to achieve that goal? So we've done some changes for the 4Ws to success. And some of you may have seen the book. Actually, the book, you can't see the book. I'll show you the book. This is the book that we use for that program. I don't know if you guys can see it. You might can't see it. Let me see how I'm trying to see, because my screen is on in the background. So I'm trying to see. Well, this is the book. Anyways, this is the book. And so it's called No Dream is Impossible, the 4Ws to a Successful Life, How to Overcome Tragedies. And that was a book that I wrote after falling 25 feet from the top of a roof. Doctors telling me I should be dead, totally paralyzed, that I would never walk again. And if I did walk, I would have a walker or crutches or cane for the rest of my life, but I would never walk again. And my response to the doctor, as they took me into the operating room to remove my left ankle and put a rod and screws and all that in, I said, well, once you do that, how long before I can go to track practice? That was my response, because to me, I wasn't willing to settle for not ever being able to walk again. And my grandmother used to always say to me, you could do anything you set your mind to do. Don't let people tell you what they believe you can do and you accept it. If you think you can do better, or you know you can do better, show them. And so that's what I did. And that's how that book came about. No Dream is Impossible. And I use that book in my programs to work with young people, to help them to understand that we all go through tragedies. We all go through ups and downs, but it's up to us to determine where we want to go with that, or if we're going to sit back on that situation. How you doing, John? Thanks for joining, man. And if you're going to sit on that situation, or if you're going to show and do better. And for me, I'm always trying to show and do better, because I was one of those kids when I was told I couldn't do something or not to go somewhere. And if it was something I really wanted to do or somewhere I really wanted to go, I figured out a way how to do it or to go there. And so that was what my grandmother was saying to me. She saw that in me, that every time somebody told me, or even my mother told me I couldn't do something or not to do something, if it's something I really want to do, I figured out a way to do it. So let's talk about, how do we do in 2023? And I got a couple questions. How do we do with our employment in 2023? How do we do with our careers in 2023? Think about that. How did you do? How was it? Were you in a job that you hated? You hated going to? I was talking to somebody tonight, and they were talking about how towards the end of this year, 2023, how they really don't enjoy the job that they're in, and how they used to jump up every day and rush the job and was there early and ready to go and excited about doing the work. And at the end of 2023 now, they're not excited. They wait to the last minute to leave to go to the job. You know, all these kind of things that shows that they weren't happy. They were no longer happy. They were no longer content with that position. And so what are they going to do in 2024? Are they going to suffer through another year of that job? Or are they going to start looking for another job? Or are they going to start their own business? What are they going to do? So for me, 2023 was a continued building of what I do. And I'm going to compare I'm going to give my story after each one of these topics I talk about. So this way I'm not just talking about, you know, what you guys are going to do. So for me, 2023 was still a continuation of me rebuilding. The pandemic shut me down. I had 7 youth development programs going in 5 different schools. I was working with young people, and No Dream is Impossible, from Boys to Men program, and I was doing a financial literacy program for the Buffalo Urban League in the city of Buffalo. All those things, when the pandemic hit, shut down. When they started back, when things opened back up in 2020, 2021, a lot of the directors were no longer at the programs, and so I ended up losing a lot of those opportunities. I'm not going to say lost income. I lost those opportunities. So for me, it was rebuilding and being creative. And that's the thing. Sometimes you have to be creative in what you do. You may be doing the same thing, but you may be doing it in a different way to get either the same outcome or a better outcome. What am I doing here? What did I do? I just did something. So I don't know what I did, but hopefully you guys can see me. Okay. So for me, it allowed me to do all those things. And what am I doing here? Okay. So, all right. So I'm jumping all over the screen here. I got like 3 different screens just popped up on me because I had my keyboard sitting, my pad sitting on the keyboard. So back to where I was saying. So for me, going into 2024, I am actually expanding into some of the programs that I was already doing. So I actually have one of my programs, my From Boys to Men program, is actually starting tomorrow in one city. Then I have another From Boys to Men program starting in another city. And then I'm going to be starting a different program that I just created. I just created it last week. No, was it this week? I just created it this week. I was sitting down having a conversation with somebody and came up with the idea for this program and sat down and created the program. Sat down and created the program, wrote out the outline, put the outline together, and now I'm applying for grants to be able to implement that program. You have to be creative with the things that you do, whether it's the same thing or whether it's to expand what you're doing. But sometimes you just have to be creative with what you're doing. So for me, that's what I'm doing as far as my career and in my employment, or just in the opportunities that I'm doing. How are you with your bills? How were you with your bills in 2023? Were you paying your bills? Were you behind on your bills? Were you up on your bills? Did you have bills? What was your situation? What is your situation going to be going into 2024? Are you going into 2024 worrying about if you're going to have a roof over your head? Are you going into 2024 worrying about, wow, I'm living paycheck to paycheck? I was watching a young lady who, has been talking about, her career now that she's doing, and she's very happy about it. But she often talks about how she has noticed now, once she has gotten into this new career where she's an entrepreneur doing her own thing, how she has noticed that a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. Are you living paycheck to paycheck? And how is that working for you? Because sometimes that paycheck isn't going to cover everything. So with you living paycheck to paycheck, have you thought about maybe another stream of income? How are you meeting those bills? How are you going into those bills in 2024? What are you going to do about that? For me, 2023, actually, I'm looking at the bills. So in 2023, my bills basically are the same. I have very few bills because I pay everything, and I don't have any, I don't have any debt. So for me, my bills are very minimal. I have a car. I don't have a car note. 7 streams of income. That's even better. I used to have 20, John, I used to have over 20 streams of income because I had 20 rental properties, and I had, at the time, 7 businesses. So I had 27 streams of income, and it was cool. It was crazy. I enjoyed it. I spent a lot of money, and I traveled a lot, but after a while, I got tired of that. 7 streams of income is great. 7 streams of income is great. I don't know what my streams are right now. I actually lose track of my streams. I've written 19 books, so that could be streams of income right there. Because depending on when somebody buys a book or whatever, I promote the book. I have, I'm doing some things with a nonprofit. I'm doing some things with a corporation. I'm doing some things with an LLC. I'm doing some things with a DBA. So I guess you can consider those could possibly be streams of income too. I don't really get into that too much. But, there's always things out there available. Like I said, you have to, be creative with the things that you do. But, John, at one point I had 20 properties, all in the city of Buffalo. And because I took a job with HUD where I was traveling around the country through 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, inspecting multifamily apartment buildings, Buffalo Housing Authority, Chicago Housing Authority, all over the country. I was doing that for 3.5 years. And as a result, when I came home, I didn't want to deal with rental property. And I had a property management company at the time too. I had my own property management company as well as my property inspection company. And so it was wearing me out. And I got to the point where I sold my last 5 properties in 2020 2013, 2014, right after my accident when I fell. I sold all of my last 5 properties right around that time. But I don't miss real estate because I do something different. And I'm going to talk about that when I get up into a different part of, this discussion. So for me, going into 2024, I really don't have any bills, I would say. I don't worry about if I do have a bill. If it's something that comes in, I pay it and I keep moving. And that's one of the things I do in my financial literacy program called Think and Grow Wealth, where I show you how to pay down credit cards and pay down bills and create, opportunities for yourself where you're not living. Even if you are just working a job and that paycheck is being able to stretch and go a lot further. People think, well, maybe I can't do that because I'm still making the same money, but I still got the same bills. But there's ways to reduce those things, which they don't think about because they're so concerned with just paycheck to paycheck. And sometimes people don't want to give up that social life for a year or 2 years or whatever, or 2-3 years. Give up all that social life of concerts and going out to the club and drinking with their friends and house parties and all those things and spending money on outfits. They don't want to give that up for a year, 2-3 years in order to be able to save some of that money, pay off some bills, and then use that paycheck to help them to develop some other things. So for me, I don't really have any bills. So for me, my 2024 with my bill situation is only going to get better. I get calls and offers all the time for credit, lines of credit, all that stuff. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm not interested in it. Speaking of credit, we're going to get to credit cards. So how are your credit cards? Are you paying off your credit cards? Are you? Yeah, sacrifice is very necessary, John. That's what I'm saying. These people, a lot of times people don't want to give up that hanging out in the club or going on the party or, whatever the case may be for a year. I'm going to take a year off from this and use that and pay off these bills and then pay off my car and then use the money that I used to pay off the car to pay off some credit cards and then use the money that I paid off the credit cards and from the car to pay off this. And then all of a sudden you have nothing to pay off. And now that paycheck comes in, instead of putting out of $2,000 or whatever you're making every month, you are using that money and you're saving it now. And that can be done in a year or 2 years where you can do those things, but people don't want to sacrifice. People don't want to give up the party life and the good life and then find themselves constantly struggling to pay their bills. Credit cards, paying off your credit card. How many people paid off their credit cards in 2023? How many people have credit cards in 2023? How many reduced the number of credit cards in 2023? I met a guy, and this guy works in a financial institution, and he was upset with me because at the time when I was talking to him, and this is no exaggeration, John, you may think this interesting though. Up until last year, my credit score was 0. That was my credit score, and he couldn't believe it at first when I told him, and then when he pulled my FICO score and he looked at it and it said 0. It actually shows up as an error because I had no credit score. I have no debt. I have no credit debt. So as a result, it showed up as I pay everything cash. And so that was the thing. I had no credit cards. I had no credit cards, no nothing. And so as a result of that, he really used to drive him crazy because you're working in a financial institution where you're encouraging people to get credit cards and do all this, get your credit score up. And I'm constantly saying, no, I don't want a credit score. And he kept trying to get me to get a credit score and I wouldn't do it. But he had over 8 credit cards. You can't talk to me about financial literacy and do it good with your credit when you got 8 credit cards. And some of them close to the maxed out, whatever the case may be, 8 credit cards. You can't talk to me about being a financial literate, financially stable and things like that when you have situations like that going on. So for me, I teach just the opposite. You don't need, multiple credit cards unless you're doing something where you're pulling money out to buy real estate or, people do things like that. I mean, if you're using it for a purpose, then fine and dandy. I don't knock what people do to create opportunities for themselves. I never had a need for a credit card. And so that kind of tells you my financial situation where I never had a need for a credit card, that, I didn't have one. I didn't have one. And as a result, because I use my debit card all the time, now when you go to rent a car, when I was traveling, and I travel a lot, when I travel, I got to a point where they wouldn't let me use my debit card. They wanted you to have a credit card. So I was talking to my sister, who is she's in the banking system, and she was suggesting, because she was upset with me too that I had a 0 credit score, but she suggested to me to go get a secure credit card, where you go to the bank, you give them a certain amount of money, and that secures the credit card for you to be able to use that credit card when you go out to the rent the rental car. And that's all I needed the card for, was to rent a rental car. And so I did that. But when I went to get the credit card, and I went to the bank, and of course they pull your credit, because same thing, they have to pull your credit, see what it was. And the lady had this puzzled look on her face. And I said, does it say error or something wrong with it? And she said, yes, it's saying like there's an error with it. It's not showing a credit score. I said, well, that's because I have no credit score. My score is 0. And she again, people get very surprised and shocked when I tell them that. And so I was able to get the secure credit card because there was nothing for them to block it with. So I got the secure credit card, but I didn't put down enough to utilize it when I went to rental cars, because I just put down a couple $100, and I should have put down a lot more. So this way, if I'm keeping the car for a longer period of time, if there was some situation with the rental car place, I would be able to cover more on the credit on that secure credit card, and I didn't do that. And so I was watching, and I tell people all the time, I'm up 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm watching TikTok and Instagram videos. And they're like, why are you up so early watching TikTok and Instagram videos? And I'm up because at 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning is when they show videos and conversations about how to create wealth, reduce wealth, and other things like that are very helpful to you. They don't show too much of that during the day. They want you to watch all the nonsense. So you see a lot of that during the day. But in the evening, like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I see these videos, how to do things with my phone, to clear up my phone, how to, get credit cards, all these different things. And one day I was watching, and this young lady, was a young lady, a young man, well, a person was on, and they suggested that if you have a Sam's Club membership, to go to Sam's Club and apply for a credit card. And Sam's Club will give you a $2,500 limit credit card off the bat. And they'll give you a cash limit also on that credit card. And I had Sam's Club for years. And like I said, I never needed a credit card, so I never did it. And so I went to Sam's Club and applied, and they gave me a $2,500 credit limit on this credit card. So now when I go to, rent a car, I don't have to worry if the secure card isn't enough, then I'll use the Sam's Club credit card, and I use that. But if I ever need any extra cash, $500, and I get it. When I use the card, I pay it right off the next month. And I do the same thing with the secure credit card. But it was so funny. I got angry, and I was telling the banker, a friend of mine, I said, my credit score came in and it was over 800. And I was very upset because I was used to my credit score being a 0, and it was over 800. It actually fell down now, I guess, because I've been using the card to rent the cars and paying it off, rent the cars, paying it off. So now actually my credit score is down a little bit. It's under 800 now, but I could care less. I could care less because I don't use credit, and I don't borrow money, and I don't need money to borrow. I don't do any of those things. And that's not for everybody, but that's just me. So that's when we talk about credit cards. How are you doing with your credit cards in 2023, and what are you going to do in 2024? Savings is a great thing. That's part of what I talk about when I was talking about paying off the car notes and paying off things, and then taking some of the money, you're putting it into different things. And so what happened was, in my programs, my From Boys to Men programs, my No Dream is Impossible program, my Think and Grow Wealth programs, I talk about savings. And one of the things I always say to my young people, and I remember a young lady, I was at the WFO wellness event last year, not this year. And there was a young lady who sat in on one of my financial literacy programs. And one of the things I said to them, and I said, how many of you go to church? And, some of them raised their hands. I said, and when you go to church, how much do they ask you to give to the church? And some knew and some didn't know, and they all go to church. The ones that went to church, they didn't, some of them didn't know. And I said, they only ask you to give 10%. I said, so if the church is asking you to give 10%, why can't you give yourself 10%? And so this young lady, and then I topped it off, and then I said, by a show of hands, how many of you know of a broke church, a church that has no money? And nobody raised their hand. And I started laughing, and I said, why don't you know a broke church? Because everybody's giving them 10%. I said, so imagine if a church can survive off of 10%, off of your 10%, you can survive off of your 10% by saving 10%, starting out with 10%. Sometimes you may end up putting more, but if you can take 10% of every time you get some source of money, and you put at least 10% away. And I bring in a shoebox when I do this discussion, because I said I have a shoebox and I cut a slit in and I tape it, and then I keep it under my bed. And that's how I started out. And so I said I tape it and I put it under the bed, because first of all, I tape it so that way I can't open it. And then I put it under the bed so that way I don't constantly see it and want to shake it up and see how much money is in it. And then I'm tempted to take it out, because you have to develop that discipline. And so I ran into this young lady last year who was in my program, and she heard me doing that discussion, and she was telling me how she started doing that. She said, after you said that, I started trying to do that, and I did that, and I was so surprised at how much money I was able to save, just saving 10%. And then I started adding more. As I got more money, I would add more money than just the 10%. And I find that I've gotten so much money saved up from just doing the 10%. And that's the mindset. Once you start creating that mindset, now she has money that she can take and she can go, use to start a business. She can use that to invest in the stock market. She can use it to put on a down payment on a house. It depends how much you're saving, how long you're saving, what you're doing with the money. But the thing was, she started to get that idea that she realized that, wow, just saving 10%, I was able to save X amount of dollars over a year. Imagine if you're making $30,000 a year and you save 10% without even thinking about it. And you're bringing home, say you're bringing home, $1,500, $3,000 a month, or whatever the case may be. You saving 10% of that. Look what you can do. That's $150 or $300 a month. That's $3,600 a year without even blinking, because you just become a habit of just putting that $300 in the bank every month. And now you're at $3,600 at the end of a year. You can do a lot with $3,600. And she realized that. And so she has been doing that system and using and adding more and more money to it. Our last discussion, streams of income. How many of you guys have various streams of income? My friend John was just talking about, having 7 streams of income. Some people may not have 7 streams of income. Some people may only have 2. Some may only have 3. Some may only have 4. But some only have 1. Living paycheck to paycheck. What are you doing in 2023? How are your streams of income coming along? How is your income coming along? Is that helping you? Are you able to survive off of that one paycheck? Is that a paycheck? Is that a business you have? Or is it a job just over broke? That's what they call jobs, just over broke. And if that's all you have, are you just over broke? Or are you under broke? Are you broke? What is your situation in 2023? And what are you going to do in 2024 to make it better? Are you going to be an entrepreneur? Are you already an entrepreneur? What are you going to do in 2024? Do you have vocational training? That's one of the things I do in my programs. I talk a lot to young people about vocational training and vocational education, electricians, carpenters, sheet metal workers, car repair, painters, drywallers, all the different things, vocational training, asbestos inspectors, home inspectors. There's so many vocational weatherization inspectors. There's so many different vocational trainings out there that are available. And I tell people, I say, I hate school. I hated school from the time I was in school to the time I got out of school. And then what did I end up doing? Continually going back to school. I have been going back to school. I just took 3 classes in the last 2 months, getting certifications. I in the last 2 months, or September, October, November. September, October, November. So the last 3 months, I would say. And the month of September, I took a 10-week course, 11-week course on construction management out of New York City. I took that course for 10 weeks. Then I finished that course and I took what is called CAP certification, where I became a certified aging in place specialist, certified aging in place specialist. And right after that, I just completed a couple weeks ago the Universal Design Essentials training, which goes along with the CAP certification, where we work with persons in their homes to help them to modify their homes to become safe and secure so they can age in place in those homes. Normally seniors, that's aging in place. Universal design is where you make the home accessible to everybody. You know, it doesn't matter if you have age, if you're an older person, if you have a handicap, or if you're a regular normal person in your home. We make the house accessible so that way you can live in it in that long term of your life, or longer term in your lifespan. And as you get older, you know, a lot of times we have difficulties getting up and down stairs, or maybe, you know, so we help them to maybe we need to relocate some bedrooms to the first floor. So this way, as you get older, you may move into the first floor. That's what's called universal design, where anybody can use it, where you have motion faucets, anybody can use it, where you have even level floors where there's no stairs and steps on your first floors and things like that. Those are all called universal design. Wider hallways and wider doorways, that's all universal design, but it's also aging in place. So, I mean, there's so many different things you can do with that skill. And that's what I just did in the last 3 months. Those are just some of the trainings. But I talked to my young people about universal design and CAPS and vocational training, carpentry. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's with the union, John, myself. I was talking to him about the CAPS and the universal design and how that training would also benefit carpenters. Because again, like I said, what homes, people are getting these wheelchairs, and the wheelchairs are the motorized and they're heavy. So now with carpentry, you have to reinforce those floors. You can't just put down a regular floor anymore. You got to put down smooth, not smooth, but firm floors. And they can be smooth, but they're like no carpets and things like that. So or a firm carpet where the wheelchair can move over it. But you also got to reinforce those floors because the weight of those wheelchairs are a lot more than a regular wheelchair. So, I mean, there's so many different things with universal design and aging in place CAPS program that could be done. So I talk about vocational training all the time. Then I talk about real estate, introduction to real estate. So I'm teaching young people, and when I say real estate, they think just buying a house. But again, carpentry, you can start a property management company, you can start a lawn care company, you can, you know, I mean, there's so many things you can do in real estate, and introducing young people to those skills so that way they can go into real estate and then eventually maybe buy a house or buy their own house, whatever the case may be. And then I talk about the stock market, all these things I talk about in my programs I do with young people. And then we talk about the stock market. We always close out with the stock market. And so when I was talking about earlier about with me not really being involved in real estate, you know, wanting to own real estate, I should say, I'm not be involved, but I am still involved in real estate because what I do now is I do what is called REITs, real estate investment trust investments. And so I can own apartment buildings, and I can own houses, and I can own parts of mortgage companies that invest in real estate and houses through REITs, real estate investment trust. And as a result of that, as the stock goes up, they also pay dividends. And so that's how I stay involved in real estate, but I don't have to go fix anything. I don't have to do any plumbing. I don't have to do any electrical work. I don't have to do all the things that I was having to do as a landlord. So I invest through REITs, and I do things like that. I do a lot of EFTs, which are trust companies that invest in various companies, Tesla and Microsoft. They invest in various numbers of companies, a variety of companies, And as a result, you have some investment in all those companies. And with those companies, the stock goes up and they also pay you dividends as well. I'm very big on dividends. I'm very big on dividends. So when John, you're saying about 7 streams of incomes or multiple streams of income, the more, yes, yeah, REITs are very good. And so what I do is that's my streams of income. I use REITs and dividend stocks, and I use EFTs and different things like that, all that pay dividends. I love dividends. So every day or every couple of days, I'm always getting some kind of dividend from somewhere, from somebody. So, that's could be my multiple streams of income that you could consider also. So when I talk about, where are you in 2023, we have to think about that. We got one more month and then we're going into 2024. But next month, you should be planning to what you're going to do in 2024. And I'm going to talk about this again next month, but we're going to top it out with something different. And I actually won't be here. I'll be out of town. So I'll be airing from out of town somewhere. I'm not going to tell you where, but I'll be airing from out of town, but I will do a show. I'll do a live show for 2023 December, but it won't be here. But we have to sit down now and look at what our plans are. And I'm going to give a little plug for a friend of mine, like I said, a young lady who I said started her own business. One thing she's been talking about is life insurance. So I think what she's doing is something with life insurance. So people need to look at 2023. If you don't have life insurance, if you have life insurance, if you need to increase life insurance, whatever the case may be, you need to have some life insurance going into 2024. Some type of life insurance, universal, a whole life, whatever it is, you need to have some type of life insurance. I was watching, and I'm going to close out real soon on this. I'm almost done. You guys know I normally only go about 25 minutes. But yeah, even with cash life. But sometimes people don't want to pay the higher price for the cash life, John. And so just having some life insurance is better than having none. So at least this way, if something happened to you, you can leave something for your family. But what I was going to say is that I was watching this Instagram. Yeah, you can put it in a trust. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about next month too, is a trust, John, because I'm doing some research on trust, but I want to do some talks about trust next month and the rest of this year. Next year, I'm going to talk about trust as well as I get more information on it. But one of the things, I was watching this video. I told you I watch videos 2-3 o'clock in the morning on Instagram and so forth. And one of the things this guy was talking about, he said, if you want to cut down on the senseless killings by police out in the community with gun violence and all these kind of things, if every single parent, every single person in the Black community, in the urban areas, were to go out and buy some type of life insurance policy for their kids, for every child in their family. And so, like I said, some may not be able to get the cash life policy, but they might be able to get a whole life or a trust. I get them mixed up, so that's why I can't say which one is which. But whole life or universal, whichever one it is, where you're paying, you get 100,000, 200,000, $500,000 policy, and you're paying, $20, $30, $50 a month, whatever the case may be. But you get a life insurance policy on every one of your kids and on yourself. If you were to do that, and this guy was talking about, and it makes a lot of sense, if every person in the Black community, urban areas, went out and got insurance for every single member of their family, the insurance companies would fight to change the laws. The insurance companies would fight to make sure that cops weren't just allowed to shoot and kill for fear. The insurance companies would make sure that you were able to age in place in your home, because who's going to lose the most if your child or someone is killed by senseless violence? Because when you're killed, I think they double. Certain policies will double whatever the payout is. If you were killed in some kind of accidental, situation, that some of them will pay double. So imagine if every single person had life insurance on their kids and on themselves and all their family members throughout every single urban area in in the world, in the community, in the US, whatever you want to call it, the life and the insurance companies would fight for your life because they do not want to pay out that money. So they're going to do everything they can to prevent that from happening. So on that note, I'm going to close out. Again, my name is Willie A. Price. Willie A. Price Speaks. A better you lifestyle, a better you, a better physical you, better personal you, better financial you. We do a physical you every morning, 7 o'clock, Sunday at 8, and on Monday through Friday at 7 o'clock a.m., we do a workout, 15-minute workout at the most. We try to go no more than 15 minutes, but it's all about a physical you. If you don't have a good physical body, your personal and your financial is never going to work out because you're always going to be suffering with some kind of physical ailment. So join me for the physical workouts on 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, right here on Facebook Live. And I will see you guys next Sunday where we talk about making your house your home. Have a blessed day.